All right, we're live. Welcome everybody back to another episode of Data Mastery, Marketing for Modern Growth. We appreciate you being here. Partner and business partner and our Chief Technology Officer, Alvin's here with us again as my co-host, and wanted to jump right in and really wanted to talk about, there's so many pieces to what we're doing now with data solutions, but we really wanted to focus on is the data that most businesses are sitting on. They either know about it or don't know about it or not leveraging it to the fullest of its capability. And that's where almost every single business is sitting on their own data gold mine. They're not just properly using it. So we're not even going to talk about, say, the in-market audiences, the ready to buy audiences, people that don't know about your business. What we're going to focus on is the individuals that already know about your business. Those are three stages. Those are individuals hitting your website already. So you've already attracted their attention and they visited your website. Individuals that have already filled out lead forms or somehow booked a phone call, filled out a lead form, but already tried to engage with your business that you're trying to convert into a customer. And then the third piece of this is the actual customers. And I think, Alvin, if you agree, let's start with the actual customers and kind of work our way back up. One of the first things we do here at Data Accelerator during that initial onboarding process is we start with the current clients. So most companies, depending on what type of company you are, if you're a finance company, you might have more information on a person than, say, an e-com brand does. But nobody has the type of data that we have on an individual where we can enrich that data. So we could take the name, the email address, the phone number, physical address, and maybe a few other pieces of information that you have on that person, that your champion client, your closed client, somebody that's already paid your business money. And we can enrich that data, showing you more about that person than, I joke around, but sometimes even that person knows about themselves, adding over 380 data points. So you can define your ICP, your ideal client profile, in a very granular level. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alvin, it's almost kind of laughable where sometimes it's, somebody, visits the site or somebody, talks to us and it's like, oh, well, what's your ideal client profile? And they're like, oh, well, males, over 35 that make a certain amount of money. And it's just like, okay, well, that's not really an ICP. We have to get down and get a little deeper into it. And, what is their income level? What's their net worth? What type of credit cards do they have? Do they have kids in the household? How old are their kids? What are their job titles? I can't remember all the 300 data points that we have, but identifying those data points and using AI or other types of softwares to then distinguish the similarities, the commonalities, and defining that ICP with, say, 5 to 10 different data points out of that 300 makes a substantial more impact as we then start going back up into the funnel, where now that you have your ICP defined by 5 to 10 data points, now we can start going back and enriching the leads. Do your leads match your ICP? And then take a step back and identify all that data come bouncing off your website, and does your website traffic match your ICP? And right there alone, those three enrichment steps on those three types of identities, closed clients, leads, and pixel data or site visitor data, is tremendously valued right off the bat. And that's something that we usually, we're accomplishing within the first couple of weeks of working with somebody, because oftentimes, you jump in here anytime, Alvin, but what we find is that ICP is not matching their site visitor data, correct? And we can quickly find a roadblock or a gap within that simple process within the first couple of weeks, correct?
Yeah, so especially, again, it differs from different niches, verticals, whether you're doing a lead gen, you're doing e-com play, or you're doing financial, where you do get way more data points on a form submission. But even though, like with an e-com, you're buying like some sort of like a widget or some low dollar value amount, you're not going to get any other data points besides their basic name, email, phone number, and address, right? That's it. But then again,
Exactly.
one thing we want to identify pretty quickly is, like, let's identify the good traffic and the bad traffic. Well, how do you do that? Well, we're able to enrich your data of the live traffic. And then from there, we can start seeing the 380 plus different data points of like, all right, well, tell us what is the data telling us? It's going to tell us a story about each individual. And all we got to do is just, all right, let's like how many people are over the age of 35 making over $100,000? They're married, they're a homeowner, they have children, they have seniors in the household, right? So if we're able to show you critical pieces of data to give you, you know, ammunition to, hey, this is this is our ideal ICP. Let's go kind of like cherry pick. Let's gather all the good ones that have been spending money, that are return buyers, that are likely to increase their average order value before they buy something, right? Why don't you put more money towards that and
Yeah,
scale
spend
that out?
spend spend more money on better data, basically.
Yes.
Correct. So I know we pulled this up on a previous episode, but I just
Mhm.
pulled this up here, the data dictionary, just to give everybody an idea of what we're talking about when we say enrich it with over 380 data points. But absolutely, I mean, we just a luxury ecom brand. We quickly were able to identify a huge gap where it's a luxury ecom beauty product where 90% of their purchases, I think it's just over 90% of their purchases came from women. But then once we start enriching their site traffic, we recognized that only 51% of their site traffic was coming from women. So all of their conversions, which was still acceptable conversions in terms of kind of ROAS and their ad spend and everything else, but at the same time, 49% of the individuals are hitting their site are males, and literally 4% of their clients, I'm sorry, 4 to 9% of their clients are males or paying clients. And then also, I mean, that's, the male and female is easy, but then we also realized that about 25 to 30% of their site traffic made under $50,000 a year, but over 90% of their purchases came from households that made over $50,000 a year. And then finally, we were able to identify some little nuances, like 7% of their total purchases came from the state of New Jersey alone. And then another 7 to 10% came from the surrounding states. So for some whatever reason, that those upper East Coast states ended up bringing in, say, over almost 20% of their purchases when we went back and looked at their targeting. And I think there was an age demographic there too, where like 90% of their purchases were between the age of 35 and 65, yet they were doing broad open targeting to everybody between 18 and 75. There was no income restrictions because Facebook doesn't allow you to do it like we would be able to do with our data. And then the worst case is they were literally funneling everybody into their retargeting ads. So they're taking 100% of their site traffic using Facebook's pixel or however much they're retargeting. So you're taking all these males that aren't even their ideal clients, or you're taking individuals that aren't making enough money to afford their product, and you're throwing good money after bad by retargeting them. Where just that simple segmentation, defining that ICP, segmenting it out at a site visitor level, now we give them the ability to only retarget their ICP instead of trying to spend money just on anybody that visits their site.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the data strategies that we use, is using the enrichment tool to reset the algorithm. Because if you're using broad or some default interest targeting off Meta Facebook, the AI is going to just focus on that. But what if we were able to reset the AI with better data? Now it's going to start finding or going into different auctions, into different pools of audiences to find a better quality person to serve them your ad and get them to click and get them onto your landing page and go through the conversion process.
Yeah, and I feel like that's really one of our, big unique value propositions is you have companies out there that say just do identity resolution. You can go find data sets of kind of, audiences, but aren't really intent. It's just based
Mm-hmm.
off past purchases and stuff.
Yeah.
You can find identity resolution people to scrape people off your site. You have some data on individuals that have already purchased from you, but by
Mm-hmm.
enriching the data, what we specialize is combining the intent, people actively searching, and then layer on enrichment, or people that visited your site where there's a layer of intent of individuals that hit your site, right? They had some intention once they hit your site to engage with your product. But why retarget everybody? It's that deadly combination of layering intent along with qualifications is where we're finding, the home runs that within the business, where we find the most success is combining both, not just, hey, this person might be interested in your product, or this person visited your site and showed interest in your product, but this visitor hit your site, showed interest in your product, and makes enough income and meets these other 4 qualifications that matches with your ICPs. That's where, again, I said it earlier, but go spend more money on the right people instead of just spending money on anybody that, wants to give you their attention.
Yeah, one of our clients like, hey, the end market's great, the pixel's great, but I was like, how do we get better quality? And the solution to that was to enrich everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the name of the game nowadays, right? And I feel like it's, Facebook and these other ad platforms are trying to program us to just say, hey, the AI can do all the work. Let's just do broad open targeting, let the AI function and do all the work. But then once we start capturing data, analyzing data, and looking at it, I'm going to go back to this luxury ecom brand. It's like, hey, OpenAI is finding targets and getting, what they deemed as quality clicks or, good CTRs, good CPCs, cost per clicks and things like that. And then at the end of the day, they're getting an acceptable ROAS of say 5 or 6. But then specifically with this ecom brand, we go plug in our intent data layered with the enriched data and the qualifications. And now we're finding pockets of gold, or I think as Alvin says, veins of gold, that's getting everywhere from an 11 to upwards of a 30% ROAS compared to say the 6 or 7% ROAS, return on advertising ad spend. For those of you that don't know what ROAS is, 11 to 30% ROAS versus 6 to 7% ROAS, just based off intent and qualifying. It's the qualifying piece, I think, is really going to be the game changer moving forward. Being able to allow these companies, whether we're working, whether we're partnering with marketing agencies or working with the brand directly, but making the most use of that ad spend. It's not all about spending as much as you can, but let's, make sure that it's being spent the most efficient way possible.
Yeah, especially with the traffic coming in, like usually the bottlenecks are typically the landing pages or the funnel or the site where you get low conversion rates. Well, let's say you do get a 3% conversion rate. Well, what about all the 97% of people that land on your site, they don't convert for whatever reason? Well, what if we were to enrich that data of the website visitors and you put AI on top of that as like, hey, out of the data that we've uploaded into the AI, or let's say ChatGPT, can you give us a summary or an explanation of why these people didn't buy based off the data? And then like, all right, here's the reason why. Like, all right, can you give me ad copies, give me headlines or hooks where I could persuade them to get them to convert, so I could increase or see a lift on my landing page where I could just change out a headline or change some sort of element on the landing page to, instead of getting a 3% conversion, how can I get a 4% conversion rate just by using AI on top of enriched data? So that's something that we'd recommend.
Absolutely. I mean, that's almost a no-brainer, taking this data and then, plugging it into whatever AI software that you're using and asking these questions. I mean, it can even boil down to, hey, here's a list of our ideal client profiles. Can you write me ad copies specific to these, outlining their pain points based off the demographics and firmographics? Or, we haven't even touched on, we're talking so much about intent and qualifying, but then all those individuals that don't qualify, we don't just throw them in the trash and dismiss them, but now we're also taking that data, because it's still valuable data. You still paid for that person, time, energy, effort, and money to get them to the site. So let's make the use of it. Even if they're I don't want to say a crappy visitor, just somebody that didn't qualify, you can still now use that to create exclusion lists to plug that into the algorithm. So now just with individuals hitting your site, we can enrich it, define who your ICP is and who's not your ICP, and now have two very powerful audiences, a good audience and a bad exclusionary audience. That, again, the more data you can plug into the algorithms, the better off you're going to be. The faster you're going to fail, which then means the faster you fail, the faster you find the winners that you can scale at a good ROI.
Yeah, one cool thing we did was like we loaded up the data, and then I asked AI ChatGPT, like, give me 10 reasons why these people didn't convert, and then it just started going one by one, all the different reasons. Like, wow, this is really cool. And then now it's starting to get you to think. It's like, all right, how can I do I need better copywriting? Is it an offer issue? Is my offer bad? How can I improve my offer? Maybe can I start thinking of like bonuses? Like how can I incentivize people to, because again, you just think of these people like they're on the add to cart page, but they stopped. They didn't pull out their credit card yet. You're like at that stage is like, hey, you have real data. We have way more data that we could give to you guys, but how can I get them to pull out their credit card or start getting them to like dial a phone number or something like that?
Yeah, and then I mean, you even go as far as like people emailing it. Say, here's my ICP. Write me a
Copy.
five touch email copy. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's so much you can do with it. Where somebody going at it right now, it's let me try to write an email copy for people visiting my site or following up with. Okay, that's great, but you don't even know who's visiting your site or who you need to follow up with. Where once we enrich the data, now you're writing that email specifically to a certain set of people with certain pain points or specific pain points and specific wants and needs, and that
Mm-hmm.
makes such a difference.
Yeah.
Versus it's the old marketing adage, you try to talk to everybody, nobody's going to listen, where you send emails to these individuals, run retargeting ads to these individuals on multiple ad platforms with messaging that resonates directly with them. And
Yeah.
now with the data, you have the ability to stay in front of these individuals for as long as you want with the highest frequency that you want, or the whatever type of frequency you want based off ad spend.
Mm-hmm.
Is your competition able to do that, where they're talking, capturing all this data, talking to these individuals based off their wants and needs? And the answer is no. You'll be surprised how few businesses out there are leveraging this type of data and these type of tools right now.
Yeah, especially if you're going to retarget on paid ads. It's like, all right, I got you to my landing page, and you didn't convert, which is okay. That's normal. How can I write better retargeting headlines to get you to come back and trust me after I show you multiple pieces of ad creatives or copies or even just a new offer to get you to finally convert? So that's just different strategies that we're doing right now.
Yeah, no, and again, it's all, we haven't really even touched on like the in-market data and those audiences. This is literally just things that we can do with individuals that are already hitting your site,
Mm-hmm.
have already filled out a lead form, or have
Yeah.
already converted. There's so
Mm-hmm.
much value in just those three stages alone. And then you start going into in-market audiences and lookalike audiences, and taking all this data and then bumping it up to the top end of your funnel to initiate better quality traffic to the site. And we'll do that on the next episode, because we're approaching 20 minutes here and I don't want to go too far past that. But that's really what we're trying to open clients' eyes to, is there's so much data that you already have, so much data out there that can be found. And it's not just that surface level data. It's let's dig deep into the data, go 4, 5, 300 data points into that data, or into those identities. And that's where the magic happens, so to speak.
So if you think about it, one last thing for me is like for every single click, right, depending on the niche, it could be a $1 click, it could be a $50 to $75 click in like competitive niches like attorneys or HVAC or home services. And when you pay for those landing page views, right, they could be the $1 or $75 landing page view, is like, and they don't convert, you want to find out why it didn't convert. Like, is
Yeah,
there
and
what's
then
wrong?
I mean, depending on the tiers and stuff, but I mean, we're talking like pennies to enrich the data. So
Yes.
that's a great, I mean, heck, if you've already paid $1, $3, $5 to get that person to the site, why wouldn't you pay a few extra pennies and
Pennies,
enrich
yeah.
that data and know as much about that person as humanly possible? Or furthermore, depending on what niche you're in, you pay 50 to, heck, if you're in the addiction treatment space, you might pay $500 to $5,000 to get that conversion, to get that
Mhm.
person in the door into your facility, into your, turn them into a current client, depending on if it's e-com or lead gen. But you could end up paying thousands of dollars to acquire that client. Why not pay a few pennies and know more about that client before they know about themselves, or more than they know about themselves? So that way it just makes it easier to go find more individuals just like that.
Yeah, again, guys, like the data itself is not expensive. It's really affordable. And again, it's just pennies in addition. Just think of it as like, how can I get better data for based off my own website visitors that'll tell me a better story that I could help pivot my whole business around, where I could clearly see, hey, white box testing, I can see the data versus black box testing. Facebook and Google, they're not going to show me any type of data except for the basic age, gender, and location.
Exactly. All right, really good stuff. Let's wrap it up here. We appreciate everybody's time. We'll come back in a couple of days with another episode, probably maybe focus on in-market, that pre-click. And, we have some good ideas, really good ideas for good episodes, trying to bring as much, practical knowledge to you guys, obviously working with multiple clients and multiple niches. So can't wait to talk to you soon. Book your data discovery call at dataaccelerator.ai and connect with myself, and let's see if utilizing data enrichment in market audiences, utilizing our data solutions could be a good fit and a win-win for you and your business here in 2025. So appreciate your time and talk to everybody real soon.
Yep.